Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the Wheatfield Town Board meeting for November 7th. This evening we are starting with a public session on the budget. This is the actual budget hearing. Ed and I worked on the budget with our department heads. The total spending plan for the new year is $12,869,360 at this point, what we call the preliminary budget. That compares to last year's $12,802,617. So there's a total, if my math is good, of about $67,000 more spending than last year. Most of that is in the personnel costs going up as they do every year. Ed did a breakdown for taxes, and with the preliminary budget as it's presently presented, I believe we are at a decrease of 25 cents on a typical home of $125,000. Does that sound right, Ed?
That is correct.
So it's not much of a saving, but it is a saving. That's a 0.05 of 1% decrease in tax, even though we're having an increase in the cost. And the primary reason for that is the town still adds buildings, still adds businesses, has businesses that were tax exempt coming onto the tax rolls, and more houses. So it spreads the base, it spreads the amount amongst more places, so it actually goes down even though expenses went up. I really don't have a whole heck of a lot to say about it. We did have a hearing at the last meeting, not a hearing, but a public information session at the last meeting, and the board did take a look at these numbers. Larry's an avid number guy who looks at every single penny in there and came up with quite a number of very small changes which were approved by the board last time, and that creates the preliminary budget, which is what we have before us now. This is here for the hearing for you folks and for any board members to bring up anything of concern. At the end of this hearing, when we close and go into a regular meeting, we could pass it this evening. We could choose to have another meeting between now and the 21st, or we could hold off until the 21st. Now, let me ask you this, Ed. If we hold off until the 21st, could we still make changes at that meeting on the 21st?
Yes.
Because it's the day after a Sunday. The 21st
correct.
is a Monday after a Sunday. So we actually could, if we chose, hold off until the 21st and pass it that evening and still be legit. Okay. That being said, do any of the board members have anything to say about the budget? Anybody? If not, then we go out to the public. Does anybody have anything they wish to say? Shirley?
The revenues for sales tax, I think it sounds like a little overly ambitious, and good accounting practice usually says that you should be conservative. It's the same budget numbers you're using this year, and so far to date, through September, you've only put 59% of it. So I'm thinking maybe it should come down.
Well, we're still hoping that it comes back to about what we budgeted for this year. Remember that
3
December
months left to collect this.
Remember that December and the check we get in January, which is for December, is always the largest. So it did come up on this last time. Again, Ed can probably speak more to that than I can. He's more intimate with the numbers. Is there anything you want to say on that, Ed?
Yeah, what is reflected in the preliminary budget really represents only 8 months of sales tax, not 9 months. The sales tax for September wasn't collected until October 26th, and the preliminary budget was approved on October 17th. So what's reflected in the budget represents only 8 months of sales tax, not 9 months.
But
And you also have to look at both the general fund and the highway fund sales tax.
But in those 8 months, we are slightly behind what we took in last year, which was below our budget of
Correct.
last year.
And we are,
We're hoping to make that up with a good Christmas that we didn't have last year.
right, and we did reduce the sales tax in the 2017 budget by just over $66,500. So we are showing a reduction.
I must have the numbers, these numbers are the same. And what is the franchise, revenue? No, that's not right.
That's very likely Time Warner Cable.
210,000.
Yeah, that's about right. We
So
get,
you see 56,000?
we get 5% of any money spent to Time Warner Cable for the television usage.
How often do we get it?
Pardon?
How often do we receive the money?
Twice. I think, is it quarterly? Okay.
So we received half of it? Or three-fourths of it?
That 56,000 was probably just for one quarter. So if you multiply that times 4,
It says actual periods 1 through 12, which is really 1 through 9.
well, yeah, except for that one particular line item, that revenue comes in quarterly, and I don't think we had the second quarter in time for the posting for the budget. Is that correct, Ed?
That is correct.
Yeah, it's like the sheriff's department, we always get the bill late, and there's only 2 officers, it's paid twice a year. And it throws numbers out of whack if you look at it on a given day, but in the end of the year, it comes correct.
Yeah, Time Warner's not real quick to hand over money.
Really?
Yeah, they're going through a process of changing now too with the sale to Comcast.
And 2 questions. The Whitmer Road remedial, what is that? We have
Whitmer Road
$17,000.
remedial would be a payment that we're still making on the dump that's off of Whitmer Road. It's half in Wheatfield, it's half in North Tonawanda. There was a bond on that for a long time. The bond is finally paid off, but we're still paying some money every year for the maintenance of the property.
We haven't paid anything so far this year, though. When did we pay that?
Ed?
Not until, probably February, March of 2017.
So
For
we
this,
paid
but it-
nothing?
But it's expense as of,
Yes,
Yeah.
so the money that we would have paid this February would have been taken out of last year's budget. As long as it comes in before March 31st, it would be taken out of the prior year's budget.
Okay, last question, I think. The service awards program, $135,000, what is that?
Firemen are now offered it's a form of a minor retirement plan. Once they've been in for so many years, they become eligible to receive payments, which are called service awards. It's a state program which the town participates in. We are required to fund it. We love our firemen. We have great numbers of them. They must be
I didn't
in...
know what it was.
Brian, I don't know if you remember, but it's something like you have to be in for 20 years active. Once you've been in for a while, then you start getting a payment when you retire.
Yeah, you get 5 years, and then you start getting it. Everybody has.
Yeah.
You
The
gotta
fire,
meet that certain, you gotta meet the requirements. It's just not, you're a fireman to get it. You have to make calls, you
right.
have to make the required.
And I think Ron Stevens is the one that takes a look at those lists that are given to him by the individual fire companies and compiles a list and creates the bill, and we have to pay the bill.
Okay.
Anybody else, any questions on the budget? This is strictly on the budget. Okay. I hate to close it that early. I'm interested in what you have to say.
I'd like to commend our budget director, Ed, and Supervisor Cliff for, this will be looking at the numbers, 6 straight years of taxes going in the negative direction instead of the positive direction, right?
For a typical homeowner.
And working with the department heads, and, you set the budget, but that doesn't mean you have to spend it, because when you don't spend it, like Supervisor Cliff says, that leaves a little bit of fund balance for the following year. So our department heads appreciate you guys working with the town board. Budgets are, a starting point for the beginning of the year, and, we try not to overspend them. And everyone's been doing a great job.
I'd like to jump on top of what Larry said as well. It has so much to do with budget directors, and the people out there, the budget makers, if you will, the head of highway, the head of water sewer, the head of these buildings, Mike Rinaldi in charge of recreation. A budget is there to give you a track. That doesn't mean you have to spend it all. And in our budget, we do include a substantial amount of money from fund balance so that we don't have to charge a tax. If we spent all of our budget every year, the old story about it's December 15th, you better go order something. If we had our budget people doing that, this would cause us a problem. But we have some rules in place, and we have an awful lot of very good people that know that if we can save money, we can save you tax money. So unless we need to spend it, we don't spend it.
I have a question.
Yes, Debbie?
You had to borrow $1 million from the fund budget to cover this coming year? Is that
Ed?
true? And then how much is left in the fund?
Last year, we were down to about 2.2, 2.3 million. So that would come out of there, but the fund balance is created from this year. The monies that we don't spend from the budget this year will also become part of fund balance next year. So I don't think we're gonna save $1 million, but hopefully we'll turn over enough to still have a substantial fund balance.
So that fund balance came from like the highway tax that's no longer in place?
I wouldn't say that because that highway tax was needed. What it came from is not spending money for several years when we were in tough times. We also got a great deal more sales tax back. The sales tax went up yearly, roughly $50,000. Then it jumped when we had the census, with the big growth from the last 10 years. And we're in that same track now, but it won't be 28%. It'll be a much smaller. We're still growing. We're still, especially building-wise, business-wise, we're growing. But not as many houses. We're not doing 180 homes a year right now. We're probably in the 20s. Mike, do you know? We're probably in the 20s, right?
Last year we hit 40, and we're probably gonna be somewhere in the 30 range by the time we top out.
So it's nowhere near what it was before, but we're still growing as compared with most of the other towns and cities. So we will still jump up at the end of the census.
One other thing, I did notice the recreation department, he's doing a great job making money for it.
He sure is, absolutely.
Give credit where credit is due.
And it wouldn't be hard for him to spend money and throw it out there, but Mike does a very good job giving an extremely vibrant program for people of all ages, not just kids, not just seniors, certainly both of those, but also anything. Softball for old people, basketball on the weekends for families. We have walking programs, swim programs, family swim programs. Mike does an exceptional job. Okay, anybody else? This is strictly dealing with the budget at this point. Yep.
Good evening, Kurt Doctor here, 37 Skylark. I just wanted to commend everybody involved with the budget. You know, these are challenging times now, and I think it's remarkable, you know, that as a taxpayer, I've been able to keep the budget stagnant. You know, part of the reason why I moved to Wheatfield 5 years ago, taxes are a little bit lower, so I definitely appreciate, you know, the work that's going into all of it. Thank you.
Thank you, Kurt. Anybody else on any subject? Okay. If there's nothing else, then I'm going to close this public hearing.